I wasn't supposed to be recording any videos today. I have surgery in the morning, but I made the mistake of watching Predator Badlands this evening, and I am so full of thoughts, opinions, and extreme feelings that I just need to get them out. So here we are. If you've tuned in for any of my streams where I talk about cosplay, you know that one of my dream cosplays, the dream cosplay, is making my own Predator cosplay, because I think they are just so cool. They are so badass, and just I'm in love with the movies. I have mixed feelings about the books. Not all are hits, but I'm an avid Predator fan. So naturally, I had to go see Predator Badlands because it's the next installment in the movies. And I don't know. I'm like riding the line of I didn't like it and I thought it was okay. I did like it, but it was meh. I'm not sure of my feelings, but I just have so many. So here we go. When the trailer first came out for this, I had mixed feelings right off the bat. I saw that we had humans, or what I had perceived to be as humans, which I was like, okay, humans directly interacting with the Yautja, the predator species, for an extended period of time as comrades vibe. That could be fine, but it's Elle Fanning, and I'm not the biggest fan of Elle Fanning. It's nothing against her. I'm just not the biggest fan of the work she's done, so I was like, okay, this could either be fine or completely miss the mark, but we'll see. I wasn't too sure how I felt about the way the Predator himself, Deck, as we learned in the movie. I wasn't sure how I felt about Deck's design. I thought he looked a little bit off compared to previous iterations of Predators that we've seen in the past. So there was just something really off about his design, and I was just like, okay, maybe it'll grow on me in the movie. But those two things right off the bat were just like setting a tone for me, setting a vibe. And when I actually sat down in the theater, I was actually really okay with the movie up until a certain point. As far as Deck's design, we find out right off the bat that he's like the runt of the litter, if you will. They talk about how he's malformed, too short, too small, the weakling, the outcast, because like as you're sitting there like looking at him, he doesn't look like a traditional predator, a traditional Yautja, and again, it just worked because he is the runt of the litter. But what I really, really, really appreciated, especially from like a cosplayer's perspective, is the fact that they didn't go full CG with him. They didn't go full CGI with his design. They actually, like, a costume department was involved. It wasn't just I'm gonna slap a bodysuit on this person, put a whole bunch of dots on their face, and like render it all in after the fact. And there was still a CGI involved, like on his face and stuff, but I was sitting there really looking at him because, again, this is a dream cosplay of mine. I'm gonna soak in all of the reference materials I can. But it was all costume. Even his head, his face was all costume, and it was like really, really nice, and it looked really, really, really good. And it felt like I was watching the original Predator movie with the design just like more refined, better detailing and everything. But he just looked fantastic. And again, the face, they clearly did prosthetics there as well, but they went in and edited later for like the fangs opening up and everything. That was CG for like a lot of it. It was CG and stuff, which I didn't really mind. I liked the good hybrid blend. They did it very, very well, and I really no notes. I hopped on board with this is why he looks the way that he does. And really loved again that they just went and was like, costume department, have fun, because I would have been, if I was in the costume department, oh my god, like, oh, just a dream, just the dream. All of the Yautja looked great. Like the mask designs were super cool. Speaking of the mask design, there's a part in the beginning where you get to see through the mask like you do several times in like OG Predator, and it wasn't. It still kind of had a grainier, not as refined feel to it. It's kind of like in OG Predator, because, you know, special effects weren't as great then as they are now. There was a little bit of a delay, and it was just a little bit grainier, and I loved it. Or maybe not grainier, but like pixelated and stuff. It was just like, yes, yes, yes. So there were a couple of times like that where they were trying to, like, they definitely paid homage to the original stuff. We definitely did get some influence from the Alien franchise, which is inevitable. We have the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, which is a huge part in this, and I'm curious to see how we are going to move forward with like how much influence how much of a presence that they're going to have in Predator, like Predator alone movies as a whole. I did like the world as well. The world was pretty cool. There was a lot going on, and there were parts where I was like, am I enjoying this because it's cool, or am I just so overstimulated by everything that's going on that I'm like, okay, so this, just because there's a lot, it has to be cool. And I'm like, you know what? Because this is a Predator movie, right? We're talking about like the apex predator, the apex species that is, you know, they continually hunt to prove themselves, to prove that they are the best hunters. It does make sense that Deck, our lead hero, anti-hero, our lead predator, our lead Yautja, would be thrown into this really chaotic and just everything's out to get you world where everything is nonstop. So yeah, it could be overstimulating, but for this movie, a Predator movie where we are proving oneself, it makes absolute sense. And I like that it wasn't just a Predator being a badass movie. You know, like I love the Predator movies because they're unstoppable forces, right? And whenever they are up against an alien, a xenomorph, it's like, okay, cool, we have someone that can go toe to toe. But this one had definitely a more human aspect to it because he is, Deck is more human-sized. He's the runt of the litter, so it made sense. He doesn't have all of the predator prowess that we're accustomed to. And this is also a coming-of-age story. I guess that's a bad way to describe it, but he's going on his hunt to earn his place in the Yautja clan. But yeah, so I had close to no complaints. Like I said, up until a certain point, we go through the opening scene, we crash land on this foreign planet, and you get this sweeping landscape of him like standing on a cliff and just taking in his surroundings. And then you get the title card, which it felt like I was looking at a Switch 2 box. You know, at the bottom when it's got all of this like legal jargon and stuff? On the freaking title card of this is like Predator Badlands, produced by whatever studio that made this, sorry, I'm spacing, and has copyright notices beneath it. I'm like, what the frick, snick snack? Let me see the cool title card, you know? Like, I'm already trying to take in the cool sweeping background with this crazy ass giant worm that's like hanging off from a cliff and like all of this, you know, smoking stuff, just all of these things going on. And then you have the title card, which is cool, you know, I can read that and then continue to like look at the cool backgrounds, but then you have all of this business jargon in it as well that just kind of was like, whoa, it was distracting and took away, and I just wanted to be swept up in the, yeah, I'm watching a Predator movie scene, cool. And that was my first real big hang up. The second one, I guess I could say was part of the animation, the CGI, because like, again, I thought it looks really good on his face. On some of the monsters from afar, it looked really good, but then as you got closer up to certain monsters, it was like, ooh, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. There's the Callisk has these like really cool regenerative properties, and the Callisk as a whole, I feel like we've definitely seen better CGI in other sci-fi and fantasy movies across the board, right? But this one was like, okay, I feel like we took a step back from what could be, like, it doesn't even have to be the best. We've just taken a step back from like, yeah, that's good. It was just kind of mid. But whenever it got into the actual regenerative stage, like it's showing like him reconnecting his tail or like parts of his body, it was like, ooh, that doesn't look too hot. That doesn't look too hot at all. Bud, the animal sidekick, which I kind of had a problem with as a whole, more on that in a sec, but like Bud wasn't the best looking. He was like, yeah, that one, I feel like he was my least favorite part of the CGI experience in its entirety. It was pretty rough. Honestly, she wasn't on the screen too much, so it was fine, but every time we were focusing in on Bud, it was like, ugh, not a huge fan. I rolled with it because it was like, it's a cheesy sci-fi movie, right? It's not supposed to be the best, we're just supposed to have fun, right? That's the whole point of this. This one still made me kind of get hung up a little bit once or twice before I just was able to let go and have fun. On the CG aspect, again, she is supposed to be the animal sidekick, and they went too animal sidekicky with her. There were just too many overly cutesy scenes that I didn't feel worked too well with a Predator movie. We had a scene where Deck is getting ready for bed, and of course we have to have Bud sitting like 5 feet away, mimicking everything that Deck does, and it goes on just too long. The other thing, and this is me kind of raging as a Predator fan, but the iconic thing that the Predator does is whenever he makes a kill, you know, or whenever one of them makes a kill, is like he rips out the spine and you got like the skull and the spine, right? It's not in every movie, but it is in every movie, you know, like it's just the iconic thing. And he didn't do that in this one. It was Bud, the baby animal sidekick, and I'm like, really? You're going to deprive me of like his signature move and give it to the baby monkey? Like, are you for real? Like, why? Just give him his moments. Like, I know that's just me being nitpicky, but you gave it to the baby monkey? Like, even, I don't know. I guess it's better than giving it to Thea, one of Elle Fanning's characters. I think if they had given that moment to her, I would have lost my shit in theaters. But giving that to Bud was just kind of like, ugh, I don't know, because again, they just made her overly cutesy, and it was just like, this isn't really entirely past the vibe check with me. I was either okay with Bud, or I was like, all right, let's move on. There was no in between. But I guess if we're getting a sequel to Predator Badlands, which I wouldn't be surprised if we did, because this is doing really, really well in theaters, I think Bud is going to be really cool for Deck to have in movies moving forward as like a hunting companion, if you will. Think like hunting hounds, but on steroids. Like by the end of the film, Bud is already taller than Deck. So I think Bud is going to become invaluable to Deck moving forward, but again, I guess we had to get through the baby stages. I don't know. I'm willing to brush it off as that, so that way Deck can have this badass hunting companion. As far as companions go, though, I cannot cut any slack for Thea. Oh my god. Thea was the point where I was like, no. When Thea walked in, that was whenever I started having major problems with the film. Thea could not shut up. And I know that sounds like a very harsh phrase, like, Naira, it could not be that bad. No, we have to have the fun, slapsticky character whose entire purpose is to bring in jokes and add in levity to the film. We have the stereotypical scene where it's cuts to the main character, so Deck, trekking across the planets, just fighting for his life, and then it's literally Thea talking nonstop over it, just different things. And that one also kind of like when Bud was mimicking Deck, and I was like, okay, we need to move on. Holy shit, Thea just talking nonstop. That one carried on way too long. Again, in the trailer, I thought that she was going to be a human, but no, she's one of the synths sent by the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. She ends up saving his life, and he ends up carrying her along. And I literally mean carry her along because she is a torso, like from like the waist up. That's all she is. So I don't know. Deck is a far more patient person than I am, because he literally has her strapped to his back for at least 2/3 of the movie. I would have dumped her. She just will not shut up. I don't know. I get that she was cast to be the silly character, the one that cuts the tension with a knife, but she fucking blew up the tension. There was no tension. And you expect to feel a little bit of tension, apprehension, suspense in a Predator movie, right? Because it's like either the Predator's hunting and you're like, ooh, what's gonna happen next? Or like someone's getting hunted by the Predator and you're like, be careful from the Predator, right? But like, no, she just cuts any form of mood or tone and just replaces it with irritation. I really don't know what they were thinking with her character. This is gonna sound a little bit harsh, but I think if they had cast literally anyone else other than Elle Fanning, it would have worked just a little bit more. I don't know what their thought processing was for casting Elle Fanning as Thea, at the very least. She did fine as Tessa. And again, another harsh statement. I believe that's because as Tessa, another android, another synth, it's probably because she didn't have to emote at all. She was rather dry, she was just curt, a little bit severe, And with Thea, it just felt like they had taken her as Princess Aurora from Maleficent and slapped her in Predator Badlands. But with Tessa, it was like, okay, this is working more. I had less complaints with Tessa than I did Thea. However, that being said, there is a scene when Thea and Tessa are talking to one another in a transport car, and it was the most painful conversation in the entire freaking movie. It was like, it was such a contrived, stereotypical, probably could have been written better by a middle schooler. I don't even know. I don't even know, man. It was just hard to sit through. Thea's character really just was abysmal. It really was abysmal. I'm kind of disappointed that she wasn't a human, actually. At first I was like, okay, she's not a human. She's a synth. She's an android. That's fine. And then as the movie progressed, I was like, you know, I'm actually very disappointed that she's not a human because she couldn't die. And like, yeah, she could die, but like it takes a lot more efforts to kill off an android, a synth, than it does a human being. And unfortunately, we're stuck with her. She's now part of Deck's clan, quote unquote. So God, her character really needs to go. But I guess that was the other thing as well, is there were no humans in this, which is how they got away with the PG-13 rating. All of the quote-unquote people were actually just androids sent there from Weyland-Yutani for their mission. So there was no blood. It was android blood, so it looks like just milk, I guess. It just, you know, instead of like blood, it was white substance spewing forth from all of the crazy brutal deaths and stuff in the action sequences, which was fine. I have no qualms with that. The problem for me with the violence was, again, it's a Predator movie, and I'm so used to seeing all of the violence on screen very brutally. Again, the Predators will rip out a spine with a skull on top and be like, look at this thing that I got. It happens on the screen. There's no question about it. But what I noticed with this one as well is whenever Deck was like unaliving somebody, it would still be focused on Deck, but you like knew what was happening, but he would like hold the android just off the screen and then commit the act. So it was like fine at first. I was like, oh man, let me see the gore. But then it happened a few more times, and then it kept happening more. And I was like, okay, hold on. What? I know that this is a PG-13 Predator movie, but like, come on, let him have the spinal column and skull combo rip. Let me see some violence and gore on screen. Again, I'm not entirely there for the gore. That's not true. I'm there for the gore. If you're a Predator fan, you're kind of a little bit a fan of the gore, right? That's just a thing with him. But it was like, okay, interesting, and then became more and more noticeable. And there was no cursing either, so you didn't have to worry about dropping any F-bombs, too many F-bombs for that PG-13 rating, because again, it felt like Aurora from Maleficent was slapped into a Predator movie, and then Deck, he was just very no-nonsense and would just tell her to shut up or stop talking, but that was about it, because again, she was just incessant. Like, there would be times where he's like trying to hunt and she just won't shush. And it's like, y'all need it. He needs to eat. You want him, you want to shush so that way he can eat and take you to your legs, but whatever, man. I will say that I did like the way that they did the dialogue for the most part. I wouldn't have minded if they just used the Yautja language for the entire thing. I have no problem reading subtitles. And maybe that's just because I play video games, have watched anime, watch a lot of C-dramas, so for me it's just like, it's normal. I don't know about how, I guess, the average normie would feel about watching a movie with just all subtitles whenever it came to scenes with just Deck and Thea, but yeah, I would have been okay if they had just conversed in the Yautja language and then they swapped to English for the android scenes. But what they do is they have him talking in the Yautja language with the subtitles, which worked, and the language is always so fucking cool, let me just say. And then with Thea, she turns on a setting and quickly explains it as it's a universal language setting, if you will. So while he is hearing what she's saying in his language, someone else who's listening in on the conversation could be hearing their native language. So that was pretty nifty. But again, like, no cursing at all. But there was just minimal dialogue with anyone outside of Deck, Thea, and Tessa. Minimal. And like, oh my god, I think I saw the same side character, the same dude, about 5 times in one of the fight sequences. And I was like, didn't you just die like 5 seconds ago? Wait, why are you here in this scene? And I'm gonna go with, there are multiple clones of the same android, like Thea and Tessa are supposed to be very similar. I was just kind of like, okay, cool, so these are identical androids, I'll go with it. But that one still kind of caught me off guard as well, because they all, like, it was the same dude over and over and over again. And honestly, I want to go back and watch this to see if my thoughts and feelings and opinions have changed or softened or gotten worse. But yeah, I want to go see if there are if like the same 10 people, you know, are just looped over and over for these deaths, or like 5 people, I don't know, but I just kept noticing the one guy, so that one threw me off a little bit as well. But yeah, I have very mixed feelings about it. In the scenes where it was just Deck being a fucking awesome predator, I was like, hell yeah. The scene where he's like gearing up and getting ready for battle, for the hunt, I was like, hell yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. And I got excited, and he had some like really awesome fight sequences, and again, the terrain was really awesome, and it would have been cool to have this whole like PvE style movie, but we were unfortunately met with Thea, who just really did trash the vibe. Honestly, if you had taken out Thea, the movie just would have gotten exponentially better. I would have been fine with having Tessa there. You know, if we had most of the movie surrounding Deck, and then Bud is like the baby animal sidekick, I would have been a lot easier on Bud. I would have been okay with it. A lot more if it was just the two of them questing, and then occasionally you'll cut to like Tessa and like her army of synths just being like, we got to get to the Kalisk before the Yautja does. I would have been okay with that. It was a decent movie. It was a decent Predator movie. It was really just Thea that really, really, really bothered me the most. I don't know what they were thinking. It just, yeah, it was rough. It was rough, buddy. Music was fine. There were a couple of songs, like the intro one and then the very last one, and before it cuts to credits, that sounded like it had some Yautja vocals, which was really awesome and honestly did give me goosebumps. But for the most part, it was just kind of like, yeah, nothing too special. Still cool, but a little bit more generic. I wish we'd heard a couple more of like, you know, OG Predator notes or whatever, but again, that's just something that I personally would have liked to hear. But yeah, that opening song was like, ooh, so cool. So cool. If you've watched this movie, I definitely want to hear your thoughts in the comments below, just because I could talk about the Predator franchise all day long and then some. Let me know your favorite part, what your favorite fight sequence was, and I will see you guys next time.